Hi.
Ah, yoga fam.
I'm so, every time it works, I'm like, oh, thank God.
You're like, yes, I know. And I was like reading the instructions. I feel pretty technologically like challenged sometimes, but I was like, okay, all right, there's going to be a plus sign. Let me see this.
You know, and if it's, there's so many little things, like if you're not updated, if the internet's not working, you know, there's so many things that could put a little hitch in the giddy up. So I'm glad it works, and I'm always so relieved when I see someone on the other end.
I'm here. I made it.
Yeah. Hey, so thank you. Can you introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah. My name's Tasia, and I own Rebel Yoga here in Thornwood, which is in Westchester, New York. Do you want me to give you a little rundown on what our studio is about?
Yeah, so I was looking on your website, and you've been open since before the pandemic. So that's congratulations, for surviving. So I want to know what that's been like. You've been open, you know, you were open for a couple of years. So, you know, hopefully you got your groove and you were able to get the yoga studio running. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Where are we now?
Yeah. So one thing I will say is, I am a big, I mean, I feel like most yogis are, I'm a big believer in like, everything's going to work itself out. I've always been one to kind of like, even growing up, like live with insufficient funds in my account. I'm like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. But our studio, like what Rebel is built upon is community, right? And our slogan is like refuse to be ordinary. So we just, it's like resilient rebels is what we were calling ourselves, like through it. And our, like I said, our community is, I mean, I've been teaching for nearly 10 years and I've never experienced a community such as ours. Like we are family. Yeah. We are like, everybody's like, we literally just become family. And if somebody hasn't been to our studio or they come for the first time, it's just like a big hug, like a home away. So I think our community really just was like, no, we need Rebel. We need this during this time. We pivoted, and technology is not my friend, but you know, we pivoted and we figured it out. Probably within like 3 days we were up and we got some virtual classes going. We were doing like lives. We were just doing anything that we could do to, you know, like heal from afar. Obviously the energy is very different virtually than it is in person, but, yeah, we did all that. And I would say for the first time, like the last 2 years we reopened, I have probably never worked so hard in my life. But it was like, it wasn't even, I can't say it was work, because it was just like fighting for our community and being here and just showing up here. And like our whole thing is like healing through words and movement, like teaching people like what yoga is, the root of it, but like making it accessible. So I would say the long answer to that, and the short is like our community, like they are just magic. I have no word.
I think that's, you know, New York, I feel like had a very unique experience. You know, here in New York, we had a lot more closures. We were closed for a lot longer. So I feel like, you know, when I talk to other studios in different parts of the country, they were closed, but not for as long a time. So in those moments when you were like, oh, this is hard, this is a lot of work, what was the first thing you would go to in your personal life? Like, was it a person? Was it a mantra? Was it just a moment to just kind of get you through those moments when you're like, this is extra challenging right now?
I will say I'm very, very blessed. I have an amazing support system. My husband is the jam. My family, like we're very, very tight knit. And like I said, you know, like our community at Rebel, like we've all like developed really good relationships as well. So leaning on each other in those times. But like personally too, just like getting on my mat, moving my body, it's so true. And I can't put enough emphasis on how medicinal this movement is. We're doing a teacher training right now and going back to like the roots of where this all originated from, and trying to, you know, we're like seeing so many people eager to learn about what yoga is beyond this asana or this movement practice. So yeah, like hitting my mat. I loved when I'm going through stuff to like kind of just move my body and like close my eyes and just allow my body to go where it needs to, because obviously energy needs to flow and move differently. And at that time too, it's like, again, that mantra, like I said, it's going to be fine. Like everything's going to work itself out. And obviously if it doesn't go as we all expect or positive on the positive, like it's okay. Like it's fine, because again, everything will work itself out.
And that's the amazing, when you have that support system around you, it can, you know, you might have that thought or that belief, but when it's echoed back to you and it's reflected back to you in your family and your community, thank goodness, because it just amplifies that feeling and it helps get us through those moments. Has your personal practice changed a lot in the last few years? I mean, going from also having a practice and then owning a studio and then going through a pandemic now, have you noticed any changes in how you personally like to practice?
Girl, how much time do we have? I can't even, okay, so I'm gonna make this as short as I can. I'll make it short. I had a daughter, she's 19 months now. We also got married in peak COVID. So we had a lot of life changes at the same time. So I'm, if you're familiar with Ayurveda, I'm very like Pitta Vata. So I'm very like whatever, but I'm also like activator. So I'm like, if I want something, like it had to be done yesterday. Like it has to do this. So during that, I'm always doing like a million things at one time. So during that time, I also went through, after the birth of my daughter, like a very traumatizing time for myself. She was diagnosed with a rare metabolic disorder. As a first-time parent, like we're not sure if she was going to survive. Like the treatment plan and all of that, the medication she has to be on daily. So it was like a lot of that. So my practice drastically changed. But again, I will tell you that my community at the time, I took off like probably 3 months longer than I anticipated to come back to teaching, given what we were going through. And I will say for the first time, probably the last like 4 months, I'm good. I'm feeling really good, but my practice has drastically changed. Don't get me wrong. I love a power hot class and I love our rebel flows, but I love like a good nidra. I love and I really like to move slowly and mindfully to just feel a little bit more and to tap in more with like the breath and like what's going on with me energetically. What am I feeling today? So yeah, definitely transformed.
Have you noticed, since you've been open before the pandemic, during, and now I want to say after, but I always hesitate to say after the pandemic, I guess current pandemic situation, have you noticed what your community wants in terms of classes? Because in some studios, they're noticing a shift in the desire for different kinds of classes. Have you noticed that at your studio?
I'd say yes and no. I mean, one thing is like with our studio is we never, like it's a very community run. I'm very involved, and anything that happens is what they want. So if, you know, like anything that we're thinking about doing, it's like, hey, do you guys want this? But I'd say like our niche is really like our signature rebel flow, and like people come here for that. And the other classes do well too. And like people do want that like yin energy at the same time. But yeah, it's like what people want is like what we provided from day one. Even if we add, like people are like always, as we evolve, they're open to being evolved and like trying out different things too, but not too much. They're just really wanting our rebel flows.
Do you remember your first yoga class, what that experience was like for you?
In general or here?
For you in general, like the very first time you ever took a yoga class, what was that like? Who introduced you to your first yoga class?
Oh, took class? Oh, okay. It's funny. So I was actually doing visual merchandising at Lululemon at the time. And, you know, Lululemon is very, obviously it's based upon a yoga brand. So my friend actually at the time, she was like, hey, why don't you come take this yoga class with me? I had torn my UCL from like doing like this Olympic weightlifting competition, and I was so bored of physical therapy. So I was like, oh, fine, I guess I'll go. Yoga's so like stereotypically like, eye roll.
But you were working for Lululemon.
Yeah, I know. And but the thing is I've always loved like a very aggressive, like ego driven like movement practice. So when you would say yoga, again, stereotypes, and that's like what we're about here, is breaking that, because I was always like, oh, okay, so boring. But I went with her and I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'm so challenged and I'm so humbled, because like I'm always like really strong. I can do a lot physically. I've always been athletic. So going into a yoga practice, which now I learn is not just about asana, but at the time I was like, oh my God, this is so annoying, but I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna get it. I also have like ADHD really bad, so I found Bikram after that, and I was like dedicated, because that like really honed me in. And it was like, it really kept me focused. So
and it's so interesting too, because I feel like a lot of people's first experiences, it can be life-changing in either direction. You know, they might say, this isn't for me, and they might never try it again. So what would your advice be to someone that's never tried yoga and is like, not for me? I mean, I feel like you're the perfect example of like, just try it. You might not think it's for you, but just try it maybe and see, because there's so many different styles. And I love that you offer something that might be considered different from your standard yoga, vinyasa practice. So what would your first words be to that person that's like, yoga's not for me?
So that's literally what I preach here. So yoga, there's these stereotypes, as I said, of like what a body should look like that's practicing yoga, the type of person that practices yoga, or what you even need to look like physically in these poses. And we refuse to be ordinary, because we're honoring those roots, but we're bringing a more modern, approachable approach to it, where yoga is for everybody, but don't go upon what you've thought of yoga, what definitions you've heard of yoga. Come in, take a practice, take a class to discover what your unique definition of yoga is, because there's like no right or wrong. Like yoga is one. Yoga is a moving meditation. It's a moving medicine. It's like, that's where like, it's the whole balance between like ego and like mind. It's like, it's okay. Check your at the door. It's not invited in here, and just let your body move. Like, don't watch anybody, which is why we're candle lit in here all the time.
Oh, nice.
That like lack of judgment and worry if you're doing it right or wrong. So just take class and find your definition of yoga.
I love that. And I love that that's the messaging that I hear more and more often. It's like, just try it. It's, the definition of what yoga looks like and what a yoga body looks like. People are more open to everything. It's a conversation now, I feel like. So I'm so happy to see this happening in all the studios all across the country. It makes me feel so good, because like you said, it is medicine. I love that term, because it does feel like not just for your body, but for your soul and your mind. And I mean, I was a hot mess before yoga. I'm a better version of me now, but it really has helped me personally as well. What's coming up for the studio that you're super excited about? Are there any retreats, events, workshops that you're like, this is special to us, no one else does this but us?
Our team is amazing. We have a really tight-knit team that we've had since like day one. And they all bring something so unique to the table, and they're so educated, and they're so just beautiful people, so individually different too, and they all bring different stuff. So we are hosting a teacher training right now. We're going to be announcing our dates for fall. We're going to have another teacher training round coming in. Every season we have one of our instructors, Tasia. She is going to be a clinical herbalist. She's in school for that, and she is hosting seasonally here. She hosts workshops that really get deep into herbalism, how we can move our bodies with the season, how we like making tinctures, all of that. It's really, really unique. And she just did our Ayurveda segment in our teacher training. She's so very, very, educated in that. And she's passionate passionate about it.
Yeah.
And then we have monthly offering. We have one of our instructors, Nikki. She's just a badass. She does length through strength. So it's this like weighted and light weights and ankle weights. It's like a slow burning flow just to like really work stabilizing your joints and those little muscle groups. We have Candace. She hosts a free Rebel in Espanol once a month here on Friday nights, which is cool. So we have like so many different offerings. One of our instructors here is like really deep into tarot card reading and like is like pretty famous in tarot card reading. So she does a lot of astrology workshops. One does meditation stuff. Like we're very well versed, and I think we offer something for everybody here, which is really cool. So it's like you can come here and you're like, how can I be a rebel? And it's just like, pick one.
Right. I love that. I love that. For your teacher trainings, I always like to emphasize this point. What makes your teacher training unique or different from, say, like, why would they choose your teacher training?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a big one for me. I've kind of been going back and forth about hosting a training for a very long time. And I'm really like, everybody can do a yoga training, right? Like everybody's an instructor at the end of the day. Me personally, I truly believe in order to be a good instructor, you need to know how to hold space. You need to know when to shut off the switch and check your shit when you come in. Ooh, sorry, I don't know if I can curse here. But know when to, like, if you're going through something, if you just through a breakup or you have a lot going on in your life, you're still holding space for other people to heal and be vulnerable. So you need to like check that. And our gifts, I strongly believe, are held within traumas or experiences that we've had. Not to say they define who we are, but they play a big factor in what our passions are and what our dharma is, what we do in life. So our training, I have a big shamanic Reiki background, very spiritual in that sense, and a lot of like self-help, vision goals, stuff like that. So I dedicated an entire weekend, which kind of weaves itself through because I'm very big into like self-awareness, but deep factor in self-exploration. We do a lot of inner child work. There was a lot of,
that's intense.
Journey. It's very intense. It was very intense. I encouraged a lot of sharing, you know, and there was a lot of stuff that came up, but you know, I shared my experience in that too, because although this amazing group of humans is coming together for this training to heal, like I'm also healing and hosting. So like so it's a very deep self-exploration, because like I said, going back, in order to be an instructor and hold space to move people through this medicine, like you got to own your shit. You got to like, you have to work through it. And you have to be aware of it. And some people aren't, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to make my own hours and teach yoga. Like, do you know what this is about? Do you know what you're doing?
If you didn't own a studio and were a yoga teacher, what would you imagine you'd be doing in like an alternate reality somewhere?
So I just posted about this. I am all over the place. I live to create. I live to make things. I get an idea. I'm impulsive. I'm an activator. I'm like, hey, like I said, I got this idea. I want to do it yesterday. Let's make it happen now. So I make candles and body care on the side. I'm also like writing a book. If I wasn't owning a studio, I would most definitely be an author. I would like be writing books to help people heal. I have a massage therapy background, so I'd probably be doing that on the side. But yeah, I'd be dabbling in a lot of things. I posted too about how like what got me to where I am is like focusing on one of my million interests, which one of these can be the most stable foundation for me to build everything else upon. And it was Rebel.
And that's huge.
Everything.
Just being able to focus like that is huge. And after talking with you for even just 20 minutes now, I feel like there is still a book in your future. Like I can see that happening. It's just a matter of time.
I'm writing it. I'm currently writing it. When my daughter naps, that's what I'm doing. It's like, my husband's like, this is your passion project. And it's also helping me heal through a lot of the trauma that I experienced with her. Because I would always be like, I don't have a story. Like, I'm not special. Like, it's a lot of insecurities and like just self-worth issues growing up. And and I truly believe that like the silver lining or the light within the darkness of what we went through with her was just the like that spark to be like, oh, you have a story.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning of that. So it's yeah, very
How
cool.
is your daughter now? Is she better? Is she on the mend?
So since it's genetic, she does have to take, we give her medications and injections every day. It's like not a thought at all in my head at this point. We're just like, she's fine. But yeah, she has a mild case, thankfully. So she's developing great. Like she's just started officially walking 3 weeks ago. So she's very busy. Where we walk, like we have places to go. So she's the light of my life. Like she grounds me. She's like, she's 19 months, but she's the coolest chick I know. Like, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Tasia, thank you so much for joining us today and for the work that you're doing and for your community. And you were voted best of, right? Your studio was voted best of in Westchester. Was it last year or the year before?
I don't remember. I don't remember the dates.
Yeah.
But it was a few years ago. Yeah. We've been nominated every year after.
Amazing.
So we will see what this year holds, but if not, we're always a winner. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
We're just grateful to be able to hold this space for people.
And thank you so much for supporting our magazine. It's only because of partners like you that we can actually do what we do. So thank you for supporting us and for helping us live our dreams as well. I wish you guys the best, and I look forward to checking in a year and see where you guys are and all the amazing things you have going on.
Oh,
and your daughter. I want to see her on Instagram.
Yes. Thank you so much for setting this up. And it was a pleasure putting a face to the name and just chatting with you. I feel like we could do this all day. And like, give me a call so we can keep going.
We'll do coffee talk. Coffee talk.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye. Have a good one.